Today I'm going to be reviewing the Modpack Valhelsia 5. Now, for those that are unfamiliar with my reviews, I base it off of 4 different categories. First is adventure. It's going to be things like additional zones and things to explore, different biomes and creatures that make just open world exploring better, dungeons and things that you can loot and find treasure in, and maybe little quests and things like that. Second is going to be mining. How interesting are the caves? Is there more stuff to find rather than just the regular stuff you find in caves? Are there more dungeons and things to find in caves, which is also a little bit adventure, but mining as well? It kind of covers the whole spelunking experience. 3 is creative. I'm going to be looking at how many blocks there are that you can use to create buildings, whether there's different creative blocks such as desks and chairs and things like that. And 4th is combat. Is there any new things like magic or any new weapons that you can use? Are there harder bosses and different mobs that you can fight? Things like that. And overall, after giving a score out of 5 for all of those different categories, we'll reach a score out of 20. Now, keep in mind, these scores are completely arbitrary. There's no real way that I'm scaling the points. It's just kind of the feel that I'm getting based off what I'm seeing in the mod pack. This one is going to be a little bit different because I actually played this mod pack before I did the review. As before, I usually just kind of go through the mod pack and review it as I'm experiencing it. So I'm going to have actual experiences to pull from. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, now let's talk about the adventure in Valhelsia 5. Now, it's still got all of the biome and animal mod packs that the other Valhelsia mod packs have, but they just don't seem as common as they were in the other mod packs. You can go around and, don't get me wrong, the world looks very different, but it's just not as vibrant as it was before. But there's other adventure aspects that you get, such as hunter lodges, gatekeeper houses. The villages have unique buildings with unique villagers that have specific new jobs. It's got obviously waystones, which are a huge important piece, and like I mentioned, it has the animal mod, so you'll still see some cool animals slithering about. I think the most important part of this mod pack that really pushes adventure is the fact that it's got 3 new zones that you can explore. There's the Ever Dawn, the Ever Bright, and the Twilight Forest, all of which have unique bosses, progression, armor sets, biomes, animals, you name it. It's got everything. It's like a fresh new version of Minecraft. And it's got all of them in the same mod pack. These were so fun to explore and actually go through and kill individual bosses that are pretty difficult sometimes. What's interesting too is in the Ever Dawn and Ever Bright, your armor from the regular world is not going to do you any favors. You're going to need to get specific armor from those particular zones so that you can scale up with what's happening. The Nether has its own unique zones. Things look a lot different. The fortresses are upgraded. It's got new monsters, new places to loot. It definitely has upgraded adventure. One of the coolest things that I've found is the upgraded strongholds. They actually look like strongholds rather than just random stone brick hallways that have extremely unique rooms, banners. It looks like an abandoned stronghold that got taken over. And then you've got the End, which isn't as upgraded as the other zones. It's just got a few new things kind of dispersed. It's got a couple new mobs, but overall it's a pretty similar End experience. So I don't want to give too much away about all of the things you can explore, but trust me, there's a lot of new dungeons and things that you can find. Honestly, the only thing that I could fault is the biome dispersion along with the animal mixtures to just kind of make the world seem more inviting with like biodiversity. Other than that, I couldn't really find anything wrong with it, so I have to give the adventure score a 4.9. All right, now let's get into mining. So the actual cave systems are so gorgeous. There's a lot more color through a bunch of different creative blocks, and there's like a bunch of different, I guess you could call them biomes underground. There's a lot of new ores and things, mostly used for engineering, but there's also some that are used for creating new armor sets, as well as just building blocks as parts of those new biomes. There's various trees and plants and things underground that you won't find above ground that make cave exploring just so much more beautiful. I mean, look at this cave system. As I was going through Spectator, I had to stop and take a look at this because it's just so colorful. And that obviously isn't even covering a lot of the crystals and things like that, but it's very expansive, lots of things to find. In addition to the ores and the actual cave biomes, there's whole new areas such as spider caves. There's a lot of underground dungeons and things that you can find that I didn't want to spoil, but they're pretty cool. There's also still the camps underground where there's got the mimic chests with special artifacts. So overall, I would say that mining has generally improved from the last Valhelsia. Because of the fact that there's all of the new beautiful cave biomes, as well as the things you can find underground, such as dungeons and things like that, I had to give mining a pretty high score. The only thing I would change is maybe having a little bit more ore dispersion. It seems like some of the cave walls are pretty bare. And also, there's not a lot of mobs underground. Caves are a pretty unique place, and I feel like you have a great opportunity to introduce more creatures and things to fight underground, and there just wasn't all that much. But overall, I gave the mining score a 4.5 out of 5. Now let's talk about creative. Now there's 88 creative pages, which keep in mind a lot of things you don't access because there's like spawn eggs and things like that that take up some of these pages, or several pages for enchanting books and things like that. The point being that there's actually a little bit less than there was in previous Valhelsia mod packs. At the very least, there isn't any more than there was, which is a little sad to see. That was one of my favorite parts about Valhelsia when I first got into modded, was just the ability to create some really cool living space. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of furniture options, a lot of different lighting options, and things like that to make your place look a lot cooler. It's just a little sad to see that it wasn't expanded upon as we go further and further. Still a lot of blocks to build out of, and you can especially get specific ones from the various zones that I had mentioned earlier, but not quite as much as there used to be. They actually took out one of my favorite blocks, which is like this magma lined one. But anyway, one of the problems I had with the creative in Valhelsia 5 as well was a bug that they had that I'm not sure if they fixed by now, but either way, it was very annoying. I had monkeys like running around my house, and I had chairs, and so the monkeys would sometimes step on the chairs and then it would make them automatically sit in them, and if you broke the chair, your entire server would crash. There seemed to be a few bugs like that, things where there were a couple creative blocks, especially with the Twilight Forest, where if you placed them, it gave you a warning saying like, hey, this block is experimental, so like, I don't know why even have it in the game at that point, but one of my favorite things about it was actually this mod called Supplementaries, which had little statues and globes and things, books that you could place on various shelving. They just kind of spruced up the decoration a little bit. Something I did want to mention for people who are interested, although I don't do engineering all that much, there are a lot of engineering mods in this, including immersive engineering, engineering decor, which has some engineering stuff, applied energistics, mechanism, pneumatic craft, and create. All have different engineering stuff. So if you're into that kind of thing, it's definitely included in this mod pack. But despite the fact that there's quite a bit of creative option, I had to lower the score a little bit for creative in Valhelsia 5 due to the couple of bugs that I encountered, as well as the lack of new blocks that you're able to create with. If you're new to Valhelsia and new to mod packs, this is still a really cool mod pack that you can explore if you are a creative type, but I had to give the score a 4.0 out of 5. Now let's talk about combat. The combat in Valhelsia 5 is actually really good. There's a bunch of new armor sets, especially ones that are specific to certain zones that you have to use. You can actually use pets in combat now. You can have pet beds where they respawn. You can get these collars that actually give them enchantments that have a wall to help protect you and things like that. So you can actually use pets in combat, which is pretty unique. There's magic. There's a few new weapons. So there's a lot of different ways to fight things now rather than just an axe or a sword. Additionally, there's a bunch of different boss fights. I'm showing you 2 from the Twilight Forest. I don't want to give too much away because each fight has its own unique strategy and it's really fun to try to figure it out. And some of them are actually really hard. There's a few bosses in the Ever Brighter Dawn that I actually struggled with a little bit. There's a bunch of different food types you can use that help kind of buff you up, and a bunch of different potions. Honestly, because all of this, in the fact that there's a bunch of new things and the fighting is really fun and simple and not too complex, which is something that I really appreciate, I had to give the combat score a 4.8 out of 5. So that gives Valhelsia 5 a score of 18.2 out of 20. I honestly cannot recommend it enough. It is a great mod pack. I've always loved all the Valhelsia mod packs. If you are into adventure, this is the mod pack for you. Trust me, it will not disappoint. So if you end up giving Valhelsia 5 a try after seeing this review, make sure to leave a comment down below and let everyone know your favorite part of Valhelsia 5 so they can kind of get a better idea as to whether the mod pack is for them. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.